I'm about to build perhaps the coolest 12-card 3070 GPU mining rig on all of YouTube. I've got 9 3070 for the win GPUs and 3 other RGB cards. So we're gonna be building an epic 12-card GPU RGB mining rig. Let's take a look at the parts. All of these cards are beefy 3070s. So I've got the 9 for the win 3s, my favorite GPU of all time. And I've got one MSI Supreme, 1 GB Aurorus, and 1 Asus Strix. Together that makes 12 GPUs, and I'm gonna be building a 12 GPU mining rig to put into my little GPU mining enclosure. Let's take a look at the other parts. Okay, for the remaining parts, we obviously need a motherboard, CPU, and RAM. I recommend getting this on eBay. This whole combo is like $60, and this will fit 12 GPUs. And this is a BioStar B250 Pro. Also have 2 1400 watt Dell server PSUs with X11 breakout boards. These are from Parallel Miner. I'll have links to all this stuff below. So if you have any trouble finding anything, just check below. I'll have the links. These will be enough to support all 12 GPUs. And then we'll obviously need 12 GPU risers. These are RGB edition, but that's unnecessary. Then you will need an ATX PSU to basically act as the on-off switch for your mining rig. And the important part about this PSU is you need a SATA cable to plug in your SSD to flash HiveOS. And then you need a Molex cable, because this Molex cable will plug into here and here, so that when you flip your power switch, both of these turn on at the same time. Ignore this PSU, don't need that. And over here, we've got fans for the front of the rig. This is a mix of 120 mil and 140 mil fans, but I'll have better fans down in the description that all match. This is just what I have sitting around, and I'm all about budget builds, so that's what these are. And you'll notice that these are actually longer than my current wooden mining rig frame. I build these myself, so check out my channel if you want to see how to build one. But you'll notice it's too short, so I need to expand this. And one of the reasons I love wooden mining rig frames is they're so customizable. So I'm gonna snap my fingers and this will be ready for 12 cards. All right, just like that, we have it extended and it is ready to accept 12 graphics cards. So let's get into how to build a GPU mining rig in 2024.
Today's video is sponsored by EMCD.io, a convenient crypto ecosystem based on the top 7 Bitcoin mining pool in the world. EMCD has everything you need for your crypto mining operations: a secure crypto wallet, a fast peer-to-peer exchange, and the coin hold feature to earn passive income for your crypto. EMCD.io offers mining pools for the biggest mineable coins, including Bitcoin, Doge, Caspa, Litecoin, ETC, and many more. Their mining pools have a low fee of 1.5%. Mining rewards can be immediately deposited into the coin hold program to earn up to 14% annually, essentially eliminating the 1.5% mining fee. Check out the EMCD.io platform by using the link down below. Use code MODERNMINING to get 33% discount on the mining pool fees for 7 days. As always, do your own research before depositing crypto into third-party applications. Thank you to EMCD.io for sponsoring this video.
So the first thing I like to do is just kind of dry fit all the parts to figure out if everything's gonna fit okay. So we're gonna have 3 PSUs in here, and we wanna make sure that our power switch is towards the front and we have room for our 2 server PSUs, which looks like it's gonna be tight, but we do have room. The next step is we wanna secure our motherboard to the frame. And I got a lot of crap from this in a previous GPU build, saying I'm tightening them down too hard. Well, that's the whole point. We're barely screwing these screws in. So this motherboard is still loose, but it's at least not gonna shift. So let's go ahead and put a couple screws in here. Like I said, not too deep. plenty of room for it to still move, because if you tighten it too deep, you're gonna crush some of the components on the bottom of the board. So we'll put one there, we'll put one right here. Plenty of room, and just like that, 2 is probably fine, but let's go ahead and put one more in this corner as well. That one may be a bit too tight, so there we go. Perfect. So now our motherboard is locked in. Now let's go ahead and plug in our most important cables. So obviously we need the motherboard cable plugged in. That goes into this 24-pin slot. And then we need our CPU cable, and that will go into this port right here. It's an 8-pin. All right. A couple of parts I forgot to mention you need to buy is a 120 gigabyte SSD. This is 480. This is way overkill. And a SATA cable. These will be linked down below as well. So the SATA cable will go into these 6 SATA ports. It doesn't matter which one you plug it into. And then the other end will go into your SSD drive. So we'll plug that in right like that. And then we'll just tuck this back for now. Also just made an Amazon store that has all your crypto mining necessities. So I'll have that linked down below in case you want additional supplies. So I mentioned in the intro that we use the Molex cable so that all of our power supplies turn on at the same time. So plug that in there, and we'll plug this in right here. Okay, and so now whenever I flip this power supply, all of them will turn on. And actually, I'm gonna go ahead and flip these server PSUs around because I like for all the power cords to be on the same side. So really quickly flip those around. Perfect. And now all of our power cords are not at the very front of the rig. We just have our 3 power supply power cords. And just like that, we're getting close to already turning this on to get our initial test results to make sure all of these components work. But to be able to plug into a monitor, we obviously need a graphics card, which is going to display to that monitor. So we're going to plug in one riser for right now. But to plug in our riser, we need to plug in our power supply cables to our server PSU. So I'm going to go ahead and plug 3 of those in. We need 3 because the GPU takes 2 power cords itself, and the riser takes 1 power cord. So plug that in, and then we'll take our riser, and I like to actually thread this through there. And then we will take our riser cord and plug that into the main slot of the motherboard. Sometimes I find that that helps it actually display correctly. And you want to make sure that you plug your riser in correctly with a little tab hanging off the side. The little tab does not go into the PCI slot. Now we'll go ahead and take our GPU, plug it into our riser, and let me grab a screw, and we will screw in our first graphics card. You don't need anything crazy. These are the screws I use. Just go ahead and stand the GPU up, hold it in place, and boom, that's locked in. It's not going anywhere. Then we'll also take our 2 power cords, and we need to plug these in. These are both 8 pins. Okay, let's go over to the desk with the monitor and see if we can get this up and running. Okay, these mining rigs are turned off, so I'm gonna steal some cables from there. We need 1 of these for our ATX PSU, 1 of these, and 1 more. This one will be long enough. And then we're gonna need to steal an Ethernet cord and plug that into our motherboard, which is over here. And then we need a monitor cord, get all the dust off it. And that's gonna plug into the GPU. I'll turn this a little more towards you guys. And then one little pro tip is I like to use an RGB keyboard, because if the RGB lights up when you boot the rig, then you know that the rig itself has posted. But if it doesn't light up, then that means that the rig has not posted for some sort of hardware issue. So let me double check everything. I think that should be fine. Hopefully when I flip this power switch, it will turn on. Negative. So when I flipped the switch, the motherboard did not turn on. And no big deal. Usually these motherboards will already be flashed to automatically turn on when they restore power. But what that means is that we need to plug in a power switch to that on off in the top right there. We need to plug in a power switch on those 2 pins. Or you can also use a screwdriver, and I'm going to try that method. So I've never actually done this before. I'm just going to use a screw. Let's see what happens. So power on, and now we need to actually turn it on. All right, that's not a great sign. Let me do a little bit more debugging. Okay, so I'm thinking this power supply might be dead, or the motherboard is, but normally you'll at least see some action from the motherboard, and the fan is not even spinning. So I'm gonna just take this power supply off, replace it with the big boy, the Corsair RM1000X. The only issue is I don't have a Molex cord, and I may not even have a SATA cord. I need to check on that. I definitely need a SATA cord. So I'll be right back. All right, so building mining rigs is all about troubleshooting. Switch to a different power supply, still getting nothing from the board. Even if I hit this power button, nothing. But I noticed, look how corroded that battery looks. So I'm gonna swap that out. Little side by side. Guess which one's new? So when you replace the battery in a motherboard like this, you want to wait a few minutes for the power to drain. And you can even hit the power switch a few times just to help drain it. But I'm going to wait like 5 minutes and then plug that new one in. All right, guys, so this is what it comes down to. The motherboard I'm using is bad. It's not working even with the new battery. So I need to get another motherboard, and I actually have one right here, but the cooler came off. So I need to replace the thermal paste on this, and we could try this one, but I can't find my dang thermal paste. So I either need to order a new motherboard or order thermal paste. So I'm going to order both and see you guys in a few days. Maybe when it's not so hot. I mean, this is crazy. It's only 82 in here. It's got to be 85% humidity. So it's just killer out here. So I'll see you guys in a few days. We'll keep building this. All right, guys, it's been one day. I actually found my thermal paste, and it looks like this motherboard is going to work. So all of that debugging is a great example of why you want to test your core parts before you go ahead and put 12 GPUs on here, because then it's way harder to get in here and mess with everything. It's just you want to test your core components early on and make sure that everything works. All right, let's go ahead and flip this switch and see if we boot into HiveOS and if everything works okay. So first off, that's spinning the CPU fan, so this new motherboard is obviously working. I put back on the original power supply that has the Molex cable to link our PSUs and the SATA cable to plug in our SSD. It looks like we're booting into HiveOS just fine. We'll make sure this one GPU pops up. One thing I did notice is that this second PSU is not turning on, and I've got bad question mark wrote on it. So I guess it is bad, and I'm gonna have to put another PSU on here. You can see that we've got one 3070 popping up in HiveOS, so I'm gonna go ahead and turn this off for now. Let's replace this PSU, and we'll also start loading up some more cards. All right, I got a new PSU in. I think it was actually the breakout board that was the issue, not the PSU, because I swapped this one in and still had the same issue. But now that I've swapped the PSU and the breakout board, if I flip this on switch, this is what you should see. Both of them boot up. and the rig boots up. I'm getting excited to see all the RGB. It's gonna be pretty awesome. I jumped ahead a little bit. Before I put the GPUs on, I need to get all my risers situated and power cords plugged in, because you can't plug the power cords in once the GPUs are on them. So I'm gonna lay all of these out. And while I'm doing this, I didn't show, and I'm not going to show, how to flash HiveOS and how to set up the software for a GPU mining rig. And I'm not going to, because I already have a full 30-minute guide online on my channel. So I'm gonna link that up in the top right now. For anyone who needs to learn the software side of GPU, how to install HiveOS, how to sell your coins once you mine them, what pool to use, all kinds of different stuff is all in that video. So make sure you check that out if you're gonna build a GPU mining rig. Also, down in the description, I have a bunch of other GPU mining rigs I've built. So if there's a detail that I'm not covering in this video, check those out and they might have all the answers for you. One thing about these 12-card mining rigs is that since the PCIe slots are on this side, the cards that are all the way over here, their USB connector is not going to be long enough to reach this motherboard. And that's, I guess, one of the downsides of building a 12-card rig. But the good news is, I thought ahead, and I've got, and the same situation goes actually for the power cords reaching from the server PSUs to the cards over on this side. So I've got extra long USB cables, and I've got extra long power cables so that everything can be connected properly. Now, if you want to save on how many power cords you have to use, you can use splitters on your risers. So what I've done here is basically every 2 risers is on a splitter, and how this will work is I'll have 6 cards on this PSU, the 6 leftmost cards, and the 6 cards on this PSU, on the 6 rightmost cards, and all the risers will be on splitters. Risers use about 35 watts, so 70 combined, and that's plenty for a splitter to handle. So that will save you basically 6 PCI strands, assuming you have splitters on hand, but they're pretty cheap online. Okay, well, you can tell by this huge mess that it was a lot of cords. I did the math, and it's basically you need 15 cords per power supply, 3 for the 6 risers, and then 12 for 2 for the 6 cards. So 15 cords, they only fit 16, so basically they're all filled up besides 1 port. But let's go ahead and start getting these cards on here. I don't know how I want to do it. If I want to have, I think I'm going to put all the For the Win 3s in the middle. So I'll go ahead and put my non-For the Win 3 cards on the outskirts. As far as spacing, there's not really a science to it. I normally just try to get these, I normally just try to put the outside ones first, and then just kind of gauge it, how much spacing I need for the other ones. Now this GPU we'll put over here on the far end. That's the spacing I'm gonna go with. We'll see if it's enough. And the good thing about the wood is you can put the holes wherever you want. So if you need to change it, you can. All right, let's see. Did I do the fitting right? A little bit wider in the middle, but honestly, that looks really good. So that's perfect. Screw these last 2 in, and then we'll start plugging them in. Man, that thing is going to be awesome when it's turned on. Okay, next steps. Power cords, making sure that these 6 cards are only using cords from the left PSU, these 6 are only using right. All right, I was gonna do a time lapse of that, but that might have taken me 20 minutes. When you're doing 12 card rigs, I swear, just plugging in all the cables down there, all the cables up here, that's half the battle. Your hands are basically raw from manipulating those 6+2 pin connectors. But that is all good to go. The only last step is to plug in all of our risers and see if it boots. So normally I would plug in just a few and try it out, but honestly, I'm just gonna go for the Hail Mary. I'll be ecstatic if this works first try. Okay, let's plug that monitor back in and flip this bad boy on. All right, I'm nervous. Let's see. Quick fan check. This one is not spinning. Somewhere the CPU fan's hitting a cable. Nothing on the monitor. Okay, so the rig did not show up, but I'm wondering if you notice only half of the riser cards have their LED on. I'm wondering if I need to use these ports right here. I should probably actually read the manual of this motherboard. So I'm gonna quickly take a look at that. But as far as power to all the cards, everything looks good. All right, guys, it's been a few hours. I think I finally got it working. Let's make sure it's working, and then I'll tell you about the changes. So this is what I meant by RGB keyboard. If this starts lighting up, then we know that the rig posted. So there we go, rig posted, and we're going into HiveOS. Let's make sure 12 GPUs show up. There we go, 12 GPUs. So what all did I have to change? Well, you'll notice this is a new motherboard. Yes, that's right, the third one of this video. Do not get the BioStar TB360. You want the BioStar TB250. The 360 is not capable of running 12 NVIDIA GPUs. Second thing I had to change, those skinny USBs that I was using, the long ones, those do not work. I think because they're so much thinner than the other cords, they just aren't capable of transferring the data, or they're 2.0 instead of 3.0. Honestly, I'm not really sure. So I had to orient this motherboard diagonally so that I could get that card and this card stretched all the way, and they can barely make contact. So with those two changes, it still wasn't working with 12, and I had to go into the BIOS and switch the PCI gen to 1X instead of 2X. And that finally allowed it to start working. Let's check the miner real quick. And there we go, 12 GPUs mining away. She is a beauty. So I'm gonna get this moved onto my shelf right here. And then I'm gonna get rid of one of these rigs because I'm maxed out on my circuit. And then we'll hop on the computer and take a look at what profitability looks like for a 12-card GPU mining rig. All right, guys, I got it loaded up onto the frame. You can see my 3 12-card rigs now. I ended up putting it on the middle shelf because when it was on the top shelf, if anyone ever looked in my fan, they would just be seeing an immediate like rainbow. So obviously I kind of want to hide that a little bit. So this is the final resting place of this rig for hopefully the next few years. And you'll notice I also swapped all the rigs around because the GPUs exhaust out of this grate right here. So you want the air to be pushed from the GPUs out that way. So I turned them all ass end around, which isn't the best look because you see all the cables in the back, but if it helps with the temperatures and the airflow, then that's what you got to do. So there it is. Get a quick look from the back.
All right, jumping into Hive OS right here. The Founder is the new rig we've made, and we can see that all 12 GPUs are popped up here. And I've got a couple errors showing up, and I'm gonna go over that shortly. But really quickly, let's take a look at all the cards in here. So as far as the temperatures, it's pretty early in the morning right now, but everything is sitting at super low fan speed, and the only card that's slightly hot is this Gigabyte card. And that's because it's on the very end of the rig, so all the heat coming off all the other cards is kind of accumulating towards the end and hitting that card the most, but still within fine range, and it's only at 50% fan. We'll monitor that when it gets hot, and we may need to move it to the very front side of the rig. We're mining Xelis 2.559 mega hash. So the question that everyone wants to know, what does the profitability of this mining rig look like? It was about $3,000 to build, which is pretty cheap for getting all these cards. I got them in a bulk deal. So if we go to hashrate.no, which is a great website to calculate profitability of different graphics cards, you can see that if we put in 12 3070s here in our 11-cent power cost and hit calculate, it's showing that we're making $4 a day, and after power, we're only profiting 60 cents, which I'm not gonna lie, is not great. But if we put in our actual power measured at the wall and our mega hash measured from the miner, it's a little better. We get to 77-cent profit a day. So that's many years to make back the initial cost of the rig. But let's really quickly look into why that number's kind of skewed, and it's probably not as bad as it seems. So in general, the crypto market has been down significantly over the past month. You can see the 30-day percentage here. You know, if Bitcoin is down 20%, then it's going to be a bloodbath in the alt market, which us as GPU miners, we're mining altcoins these days. They suffer heavily from Bitcoin drawdowns. So Xelis itself is down 30%. So if we just go back 30 days to what this would have been making, it's an additional 30% on that 77 cents. So closer to like $1 profit a day. But everything is down just significantly. And this is just a list of a lot of mineable coins I have. That's part of why profits are so low right now, is because just the GPU market in general is down. But if you want to know why this doesn't really concern me, and that crypto mining is a lot more than just how much you're profiting every day, there's a lot bigger strategy that goes into it. Check out a lot of the videos on my channel where I break down why I mine crypto instead of buying it. So the last point I want to bring up is these errors right here. So LA stands for load average, and it's this value up here. And this is happening basically every 8 to 12 hours. And these last few have actually been sooner than that, where the rig is just shutting down. And so one quick pointer, if you ever have load average errors, if you go into the hash rate watchdog, you can set reboot if LA is greater than a certain value. So I've got that set to 6. And that means when I get these load average issues, that my rig just doesn't shut down and is off for potentially the whole night while I'm sleeping. It's going to reboot and continue mining. So really, I've only had this period of downtime, and that's about it. These other ones are just for me doing maintenance and stuff on the rigs. So this is what the error says. Leave in the comments if you have any idea about this. A couple things I've tried is this 08 and 09 is actually GPU identifiers. So you can see 08 and 09 down here. So I've switched the risers on those cards. I've reflashed Hive OS. I've lowered overclocks. I've went into the BIOS just recently and turned off integrated graphics, set the X16 slot to Gen 1, and a few other things in the BIOS. So we'll see if that works. But otherwise, it's still running fine. It just loses about 2 minutes of mining time every 6 hours. So that's something that'll get worked out over time. So now that you've got a mining rig built, check out this video and it'll show you all the software sides of GPU mining, a full tutorial. Good luck, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching Modern Mining.